We were all surprised with the end of Alchemy of Souls, and we have to admit that everything that happened was very shocking. Most of us expected that at least in the final chapter we would understand some things that have not yet been explained, but the end of Season 1 left us with more questions than answers. One of the characters that we still don't know much of her backstory and they haven't explained well the extent of her powers is Bu-yeon. Also, one of the most frequently asked questions among fans is, how could Mu-Deok intervene in Naksu's soul shift? What really happened when Bu-yeon fell into the lake? How great are her powers? That's why today I'm going to talk about Bu-yeon's hidden history. But first, subscribe to this channel and turn on the notification bell so you'll be among the first to see our content. We know that Bu-yeon's parents are Hwang and Yu-tak. This is very important to clarify because there was a chapter where Yu-tak said that he was not Bu-yeon's father, but later we found out that he was her father. Yu-tak made that comment because he felt inferior and jealous that Jang-gan saved Bu-yeon, or rather revived her in her mother's womb. According to what Hwang said, Bu-yeon was more than 9 months in the womb. She was approximately 13 months, which is not normal. We might think that she was in the womb that long due to natural causes, but we know that Jang-gan was the one who chose the day for her to be born, and he chose a date blessed by the heavens. So even before Bu-yeon was born, she was having a hard time. We know that after Hwang found out that Bu-yeon was dead in her womb, she asked Jang-gan to use the ice stone to resurrect her. This part alone leaves us with many questions because we never saw the scene when Jang-gan was reviving Bu-yeon. For that reason, there is a theory that Bu-yeon's soul really died, and that with the ice stone Solran was able to reincarnate Bu-yeon, and maybe that would explain why Bu-yeon looks a lot like Solran. This is because we know that on one occasion Jinmu compared Bu-yeon to a priestess, because she is blind like Solran was, and apparently the powers they have are very similar. Although it's just a theory, it still can't be ruled out because they haven't presented scenes of when Jang-gan used the ice stone to revive Bu-yeon. It seems that Bu-yeon had a pretty normal life, together with her mother Hwang. But it is very important to emphasize that at her young age she has already mastered the powers that her mother has and many more. So we see that Bu-yeon is not a simple girl who inherited her family's powers like Choyeon, but that her powers are more powerful. The question would be whether those powers she has are because of a combination of her mother's and her father's family's powers, or there is something beyond that. It may also be that since she was born on a day blessed by the heavens, similar to the day Jang-wook was born, this linked to the powers inherited from her family may explain her power. Let's remember that Jang-wook is very powerful for that very reason. He was born on a special day, and her inheritance from his father is very powerful. What is certain is that her family did recognize that Bu-yeon was a very special and powerful girl. Then Bu-yeon was taken to the lake by Jinmu so she could find the ice stone. There we could see that she did find the ice stone, and Jinmu told her to give it to him, and she said no. She could have said no because she was just a child and was playing, or she could have said no because she knew Jinmu was going to use the ice stone for something bad. Jinmu without any fear throws Bu-yeon into the lake, and after that she appears on a shore somewhere, and an old woman sees her and takes her home. The old woman, while feeding her, asks her name, and Bu-yeon doesn't answer. So the old woman tells her that she will call her Mu-Deok because that was her granddaughter's name. The curious thing about this scene is why Bu-yeon didn't say her real name. Could it be because she really lost her memory, or could it be because she simply didn't want to be recognized? According to what we saw in the chapters, apparently Bu-yeon never lost her memory, and there are some scenes that could compare it. So if she didn't lose her memory, it is understood that she didn't want to be recognized. Now, why didn't she want to be recognized? Most likely she was afraid for her life and thought that if Jin-Moo had the courage to throw her in the lake with her father, it is very likely that they would want to kill her again. It may also be because she simply did not want to go back to her mom. We may think that she had a good life, but we don't really know how she felt because the story was not presented in detail. We can assume that she may have also hidden her identity to take revenge on Jin-Moo. If we believe in the theory that Sol-ran reincarnated in her, we could think that she simply hid her identity in order to fulfill some mission or purpose that was not yet very clear. Let's remember that she knew if it was going to rain and could feel some things, and that in general she was very different from the others. So we could think that maybe she could see the future and knew that something bad could happen. We still don't know in detail how Bu-yeon's upbringing was after her fall in the lake. We don't know who else she knows, what powers she developed, and the places she visited. The only thing we know is that she was friends with Zoe and that even though she was blind she knew where the rivers were. After the old woman who raised her passed away, apparently they were going to sell her, as that was very common at that time and in that culture. As we saw, the old woman had a debt for her illness and passed it on to Mu-Deok, so they had to sell her, so that she could pay through some service. But before Mu-Deok was in a kind of market, and that's where Nak-Soo met her. At that time Nak-Soo was looking for a strong woman to change her body, and seeing that Mu-Deok was blind he pushed her. After that we learned that Nak-Soo entered Mu-Deok's body, and we didn't really know what had happened to Mu-Deok's soul. Then some things came up that showed us that Mu-Deok's soul, or Bu-yeon, who are the same person, was next to Nak-Soo's. For example, the first appearance was when Jang-wook was in the process of soul shift and Mu-Deok appeared in a vision and saved him. Also when Mu-Deok was at Master Lee's house, of course understanding that it was Nak-Soo, she through a dream or vision saw a young blind girl who was originally Mu-Deok. Also when Mu-Deok was near Hwang's house she felt a very strong energy, and on 2 occasions she was able to open the relic room, something that clearly Bu-yeon could do. Another very clear example was when she used her energy to stop the eunuch from killing her, and when Hwang was about to strangle her she said the word mother. One of the scenes we saw Bu-yeon most clearly was when Nak-Soo was trapped in the ice stone and had a vision where Bu-yeon and Mu-Deok appeared to her. In other words, Nak-Soo talked to the same person but as an adult and as a child. This scene is very confusing and still has not been well explained. There are only theories that can help us to know what happened. There is a theory that explains that Bu-yeon as a child and Bu-yeon as an adult appeared because they are 2 different people. But others think that since Bu-yeon is a priestess she has certain powers that are very great, and that vision is only a manifestation of a type of power that she has. With all this information we can understand that of all the characters in the series, Bu-yeon seems to be the most powerful, and although actress Jung So-min will not appear in the 2nd season as the main role, we could think that Mu-Deok could change to another body. Although the writers of this series didn't explain Bu-yeon's character clearly, we know that she seems to be very powerful, so it would be very sad if in the 2nd season we don't hear about Bu-yeon again. Who knows, she could appear only in people's visions, or it would make more sense for her to change her body, or she could also stay together with Nak-Soo's soul. But we have to wait for the 2nd season to find out what will happen. What do you think of this character? What are your theories about Bu-yeon? Leave your comment here so we can read it. If you like this video, like and share it with your friends.